Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. And I'm Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride. And today we'll be talking about Bilbo Baggins. Yes, you heard right, Bilbo Baggins. The 9 cost, 1 willpower, 1 attack power, 2 defense, 2 hit point, tactics hero.
Yes, you heard that right. Tactics hero.
Yes, and he has the Hobbit and Burglar trait with the response after Bilbo Baggins commits to the quest. Choose an enemy in the staging area until the end of the phase. Bilbo Baggins gets plus X willpower, where X is that enemy's threat. If the player's quest successfully deal 1 damage to that enemy, 2 damage instead if it is guarding a card. So, David, I think I've said for both of us, we were both in shock when we seen this card spoiled for the new adventure pack, which was
I think Mount Gundabad, right?
Mount Gundabad, yes.
It'll be the 5th adventure pack in the Wilds of Rivanion.
I believe that is correct. Yes.
Yeah. So we're not going to see this for another couple months in live play, but it was just too good, I think, for us to not talk about this guy as soon as we saw the card. So, what do you think of this thing?
I've been wanting a better version of Bilbo for a while. And in all honesty, I think this has really done Bilbo justice. The fact that he can quest and deal damage if he quests successfully with an enemy's threat is amazing. And it nullifies so much threat that you could get off an enemy. Like Hunt as a Mordo, for an example.
Yeah, and I was thinking even, like, I think off air we were talking right before we started recording that you have to be immune to that you can't be immune to player card effects, but that's not the case because it's add that threat to his willpower. Yes. So even all the enemies that are immune to player card effects, that doesn't matter. So if you have like you said, Hunters for Mordor, they're not immune to player card effects, but any Nazgul, immune to player card effects or not. Smog, who can get totally crazy in terms of, in terms of threat in that 5th Saga expansion. You can cancel him out just with Bilbo. Anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure that because I was thinking about this.
The thing that you have to be wary of is remembering that the damage dealt does mean immune to player card effects doesn't hit them.
Right.
So you can use their threat to increase your willpower, but you can't deal that 1 damage if you quest successfully.
Right, like the Black Serpent. I've been playing the Haradrim cycle, and so the Black Serpent starts off with 3 threat, and then each stage gets more and more threat. So he gets 4, and the next stage 5, and the next. So it cancels it out, or it doesn't cancel it out, but he quests with additional willpower equal to that person's threat, but he can't take damage, and so until a certain round when he can, but that is crazy. Like this whole idea of canceling out just 1 huge threat with Bilbo is amazing. I keep cutting you off because I'm so excited. This is almost like, just for the audience, this is almost like how we talk, like, while we're prepping for cards that we're excited for.
Definitely.
It's like a hot take here that we're dealing with. So.
I mean, when we first saw it, we couldn't stop going on about how amazing it would be to actually run either a full tactics Hobbit deck, where it starts off at, what did we say, 23 threat?
23 threat with Tom Cotton, who can bring out any, can Hobbit access ally. Any Hobbit ally from any sphere. So Rosie with a mono tactics Hobbit deck is still accessible, and then with Mary, who has a threat of 6, you're starting with 23 threat. I mean, that's ridiculous with a quester who would be Bilbo, a defender who would be Tom Cotton, and then an attacker who would be Mary. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, not to mention other attachments like Friend of Friends, that can boost them up even further.
Yeah, and like the Dagger of Westerness can go on Mary like normal. You know, you can go back to the episode that we talked about Mary, you know, and see all those things that you can do to add to Mary. And then, but that direct damage for guarded, that extra direct damage for guarded cards is amazing. Like, you go from 1 if you quest successfully, 2 if it's a guarded. This, for 9 threat, for the highest threat Hobbit ally, or Hobbit hero, this is crazy because you can quest for a bunch. You know, like, this makes him decently costed. 9 is a normal cost for, I think, for what this is. It may be, it still may be a little high, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And when you consider all the cards that we have had in the last few years, where it's come down to cost over playability, I think for me, the introduction of this Bilbo is central for what players are wanting from Hobbits on a whole. Or at least that's what I was looking for.
The other thing that I like about Bilbo's ability is that it gets rid of those annoying enemies. The crows, the bats, you know, like all of those crazy enemies that you hate having in the staging area, not because they're a pain in the butt, but they're 1 hit point and they just kind of drive you nuts. Like, that gets rid of them. It's almost like Thalin's ability. Thalin's ability in terms of dealing damage is a little bit better because it triggers before the surge does, but this is still pretty good.
I'd agree with that.
You know, I just think, you know, and then I think this is the first card that actually does something special because of a guarded ability. Yes. I think. You know, like, here's a guarded card, so this does a little bit more because it's guarded. And I think that plays into the keyword. The burglar, the trait burglar is only occupied by 1 person in the game, and that's Bilbo. There is a card called Burglar Baggins, but I think that that's not the trait of the card. But so I think that 1 to any enemy, 2 to, if it's guarding something, reflects that burglary sort of ability.
And I'd just like to point out this artwork, although David thinks it looks a bit cartoony, I actually like it. It's where he's holding Thor's chalice when he's about to run out of the cave before Smaug wakes up from the Hobbit series.
Right. I like the idea of the artwork with Smaug in the background and him holding on to the treasure. It's just, for me, it doesn't seem consistent with some of the other artwork. I mean, the artwork is fine; it's well done. It's just that it's not consistent with some of the more realistic artwork that I'm used to seeing.
Yeah.
This Bilbo is what I wanted from the original Bilbo without knowing that I wanted it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do you think about this Bilbo?
I really like it. Like I've said, it is what I've been hoping for a long time. That's never actually come out, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of cards and combos that you're going to want to play with this guy. You know, like I think
Rosie.
You're definitely going to want to play Rosie, but I think that goes in a Hobbit deck. Like, that doesn't necessarily go with just this Bilbo. I mean, so I guess then he becomes kind of he's not necessarily a great attacker, but if there was a way you can add his willpower to his attack.
Yeah, if you could add his will to his attack, it wouldn't be that bad.
Like, you could make him into Eowyn and then quick strike him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And I don't know if there's a card that does that. Mark my words. This is what I'm going to say right now in front of you, in front of the whole Card Talk audience, is that I am going to build a mono tactics Hobbit deck that works.
Okay.
That's going to be my thing. Okay.
Well, when this comes out, when the actual card comes out, we will see, and we will see how well it works.
As of the recording of this, we're only into the second AP, right? So we're waiting on
Fire in the Night.
There was an announcement that Fire in the Night is shipping. And then we still have the Ghost of Framsburg, which may be another couple of months. And so we're not looking at this until April or May of 2019. This Hobbit character doesn't necessarily do anything. What do I want to say? Doesn't do anything to, like, hobbits don't necessarily have a crazy trait except for that they are crazy action except for their low threat. They're kind of all over the place. I guess the low threat helps, like, draw cards if you're using Pippin or like things like that, engagement and stuff like that. But this particular, it's a 9-cost Hobbit hero, so we're not talking about low threat necessarily. It's just a high quality tactics hero that can slot into a lot of decks that are already pre-built.
Oh, definitely. He's not going to be one that says you have to run in a Hobbit deck. He's going to be very versatile.
This Hobbit hero, I think, is better than Tactics Eowyn for a tactics deck.
I'd put him on par with Tactics Eowyn because obviously she also has that emergency, the emergency panic button.
She's got the panic button that you can use once. Yes. This guy has his ability that he uses passively all the time that removes the threat of the big bad threat guy every turn. And that I can't I don't know.
I can't knock the new Bilbo until I've played with him. But in the same respect, I can't knock Tactics Eowyn. Tactics Eowyn is ideal for a mono tactics deck. Couple her ability with Bilbo, and you have, say, 8 willpower on the first turn, or 9 willpower on the first turn.
What you have is 4 willpower. Well, you have 5 because Bilbo's natural willpower is 1.
Yes.
So you have 5 willpower, plus you've canceled whatever enemy is out there.
Yes.
So it's almost like you're automatically going to quest successfully regardless of what you bring out.
You're going to have an enemy in the staging area to begin with.
But if you don't have an enemy, then it doesn't matter anyways. I guess if it's a location, you could start with some sort of crazy location in the staging area. But
yeah. But other than that, yes, he is a brilliant card. I've got no qualms with saying that. He's
right. This card changes. I think, like we just said, I think that this card changes how you build Hobbit decks.
Well, not even just Hobbit decks, normal decks.
Or tactics, right? Tactics. How you include this card may be a swap out. Even like if you have Tactics Eowyn, you could swap this card out because Eowyn, like I said, Eowyn's ability is one time only. This ability you can use over and over again. So maybe if you have something that stays in the staging area, like the Black Serpent, and you want to always cancel his threat, which is helpful in that particular quest. You put in Bilbo, and all of a sudden you don't have to worry about the Black Serpent's threat. Like it's totally reasonable.
Yeah.
Smogs always stays in the staging area. He's considered to be engaged, but he always stays in the staging area.
Yeah. Or the Witch King from Flame of the West.
What about the Balrog?
Let's have a look.
He always stays in the staging area too, I think. I think he's considered to be engaged with all players. Like, you're canceling so much, the potential to cancel so much threat. Even if you're talking about a character that comes off, like the Hunters from Mordor, they don't start in the staging area. Basically, you've changed the whole dynamic of those particular quests by including him.
One card.
Bilbo, right. I don't know. We could talk about this guy for hours, but do you want to try to ring this guy?
we can give it a go.
Okay. So, Grant, I'll let you go first. So, remember, 1 is the best card ever in the card pool, the one card to rule them all, and 10 is the trash bin or coaster or, bike spokes or whatever you want to call it. It's really bad. So, how would you rate Tactics Hero? I'm almost chills running up and down my spine. Tactics Hero Bilbo. How would you rate him?
Tactics rated Bilbo. I'd have to say, on the premise I haven't used them yet, but based solely on what we've read about them, I'm going to rate them a 3.
Okay.
Because of the fact we haven't gotten all the information yet on them, we haven't play tested them. I'd say a 3 is a solid place to put them.
Okay. Yeah. So if I were going to ring him, I mean, here's the thing. So in general, just so the audience knows, like, I don't just randomly hate on cards. Like, if I don't play a card, but I feel like I would want to play a card, I usually give it a 5. So, because I haven't played it yet, but it seems like good, so that may help you indicate what I'm doing. So that kind of falls under this category where I'd say this hero is a 5. Where I haven't played him, but I really want to play him. And obviously, but I can't play him because he's not out yet. This is the first episode where we've done a card that is going to come out. And so without playing him, I really, like you said, you can't get a feel for the card. But I think that he's better than Tactics Eowyn. Okay? That ability to cancel the threat of an enemy in the staging area is key. But I think he's a little less than Hero Sam, because Hero Sam can use his abilities all the time. You can boost him, you get a bonus to everybody. So I think he's just slightly less versatile than Hero Sam. I'm not a half ring giver, so I can't give half rings. But I'm going to rate Bilbo out of the package a 2 rings.
Oh, what a surprise. I'd already put your rating in before you actually rated it.
You were like, oh, better than Tactics Eowyn. So that's a 2 or a 1.
And you said not better than Sam, so that
Right.
leaves 2.
Right. So everybody, join us next time for another episode of Card Talk. We'll talk to you later.